Let's take a look at global markets. Chinese stocks closed mixed on Thursday, with the benchmark Shanghai Composite Index up 0.32%. Hong Kong stocks went up 0.34%. The 225 issue Nikkei stock average lost 0.38%. The US dollar increased against most other major currencies on Wednesday as traders eyed former FBI Director James Comey's much-anticipated testimony. Oil prices suffered big losses Wednesday as official data showed a surprise increase in U.S. crude stockpiles. Gold futures on the COMEX division of the New York Mercantile Exchange fell on Wednesday, ending a three-day string of advances as the dollar gained some ground. Now let's take a look at the U.S. stocks from correspondent Su Omeng in New York.
Okay, let's take a look at the stocks market. U.S. stocks traded mostly higher on Wednesday as investors awaited major political and economic events slated for Thursday. Former FBI Director James Comey is scheduled to testify Thursday in an open hearing on Capitol Hill, the first time since U.S. President Donald Trump suddenly fired him. It's highly expected that Comey will testify whether Trump asked him to shut down the FBI probe into former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. However, Comey will almost certainly not be able to discuss details of the ongoing FBI probe, which is now overseen by a special counsel. Overseas investors also prepared for general election in the United Kingdom set for Thursday, with Prime Minister Theresa May's Conservative Party expected to win. However, recent opinion polls show the Conservative leading narrowing. Meanwhile, the European Central Bank ECB will release its latest monetary policy decision on Thursday, while markets widely expect the central bank to leave interest rates unchanged. But some analysts said the ECB might cut its inflation forecast. This is Omeng reporting from New York Stock Exchange.
Thank you, Omeng. Now turning to agriculture futures, here's Virginia McGathy in Chicago with the latest.
I'm Virginia McGathy here on the floor at the CME Group reporting to you on the grain market. Today, a lot happening. Let's start with corn. Corn is surging. Futures really broke out through the resistance number and to a new 11-month high. The market is really surging. The next stop really could be $3.90, dare I say that we're going to get to the $4 mark. There has been a real scramble. Short positions are starting to recover, and the market is starting to move higher. There has been commodity fund buying as well. This weather market, the forecast is really hot and dry. So now we're right into a weather market that we knew was going to happen. Here we are in mid-June. The market is just getting poised to start to move higher. We've been quiet for so long that it may have caught a few people off guard. But if this market starts to get ahead of steam, we can look out because we're going to have a lot of volatility. Now let's look at wheat. Wheat really jumped higher. And actually, wheat is the one that really brought the market up. When we had the crop ratings report that was reduced by almost 7% after the close on Monday, really sparked the rally here. Right now, we see that the spring wheat from Minneapolis is up over $6, but non-commercial buying has come in, and so there has come in and really rallied this market. It certainly looks like there's a lot of people stepping up and trying to get long this because the weather seems to be hurting the market. And even though we have huge supplies, we're starting to eat through some of those supplies, and we know that when all the supplies are gone is not when the market rallies. It really starts long before that. What trailed behind a little bit was soybeans. Now soybeans was having a difficult time getting off the bottom, but it looks like $9 is holding very well. The market did climb today, up almost 8 cents. We are I think that what's happening is there's some overflow purchasing of it. So the futures market has turned up, and it's really supporting this rally. The markets are very friendly with this weather. Even the U.S. dollar index has been relatively flat, so not really affecting these markets. Crude today down over $2. That's also helping all the commodity markets across the board. So we expect there's going to be quite a bit of volatility, and we're watching. We're 2 days away from the big crop report on Friday. So all bets are off right now. Hang on to your hat because we're going to have some real volatility these next 2 days. That's all from the floor on the CME Group. I'm Virginia McGathy.
Thank you, Virginia, and to keep you updated on the daily agriculture futures. In its latest economic outlook, the Organization for Economic and Cooperation Development, or OECD, projected accelerated global growth for the 2017 to 2018 period.
Updating its last estimate issued on March, the Paris-based think tank saw global growth in 2017 at 3.5%, up by 0.2 percentage point. The figure was set to accelerate to 3.6% in 2018 due to stronger business and consumer confidence, rising industrial production, and recovering employment and trade flow. The organization estimated that among the major advanced economies, the recovery will continue in the U.S. However, it revised down the U.S. GDP forecast this year to 2.1% and 2.4% next year. The organization report showed a steady outlook for the euro area at 1.8% over the period, while that of Japan would increase to 1.4% this year before slowing to 1% the next. In China, growth is expected to slow to 6.6% this year and 6.4% the following year. OECD Secretary General Andrew Gurria pointed out the signs of improvement after 5 years of weak growth. However, he warned that the modest cyclical expansion will not be sufficient to sustain strong gains in standards of living across OECD countries. He recommended deeper, sustained, and collective commitment to coherent policy packages that support inclusiveness and productivity growth.
Now let's take a look at some news from Germany. Latest data showed German factory orders slumped more than expected in April as overseas demand declined. According to the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy, factory orders fell 2.1% from March. The result was much worse than the market forecast and cut a stream of positive economic data of the largest economy in Europe. The contraction in April was driven by a decline in demand from overseas, which slipped 3.4%. Particularly, orders from non-Eurozone areas plunged 4.8%. Domestic orders dropped 0.2%. March's figure was revised up to 1.1% growth. German factory orders swung sharply in the last few months. It plummeted in January after a strong gain in December, rose again in February and March, and slipped in April. Despite the volatility, the ministry said it saw strong signals for continuing gradual upswing in the manufacturing sector. Latest data showed that German luxury automobiles kept dominating the South Korean imported car market in May amid stiffer competition of German automakers. According to the Korea Automobile Importers and Distributors Association, the competition was fierce in the South Korean market between Mercedes-Benz and BMW of Germany. Sales of BMW surpassed that of Mercedes-Benz in May. The third place came to the Japanese carmaker Honda. It was followed by U.S. automaker Ford. U.S. Treasury Secretary says that he was very pleased with the direction of U.S.-China economic relations as the two countries achieved initial results of a 100-day plan to boost economic cooperation.
Speaking at the U.S.-China Business Council annual meeting, Stephen Mnuchin hailed the progress made in bilateral economic cooperation.
I think we both acknowledge that there are certain things that we want to change that are going to take some period of time, and we want to make sure we're on the same page, we have the same objectives, and we figure out how we execute them through our system and their system. I couldn't be more pleased with the direction of where we're heading.
The two countries have agreed to establish a comprehensive economic dialogue and initiate a 100-day plan to boost bilateral economic cooperation. Last month, the two sides announced the initial results of the plan, covering agriculture, financial services, investment, and energy. Most of the agreements are expected to be implemented by July the 16th. Mnuchin said the two sides are planning the first meeting of the Comprehensive Economic Dialogue, most likely this summer, which could begin discussion of a one-year plan on bilateral economic cooperation. He also said negotiations on a bilateral investment treaty with China are on the agenda of the Trump administration.
A senior expert says the just concluded China-EU summit yielded fruitful results, sending out a positive signal that China-EU relations remain stable and is steadily forging ahead. Shada Islam, Director of Policy at a Brussels-based think tank Friends of Europe, said the meeting sent solid messages to the world.
The European Union and China came together at the highest level and sent some very strong political messages to the world, but also to Washington, I think. And I think that is, for me, the key of this meeting. It is a troubling time, and the fact that Premier Li Keqiang and the two European Union presidents, Donald Tusk and Jean-Claude Juncker, sent some very powerful message on the importance of fighting climate change. EU and China stand side by side.
On bilateral trade, the expert said although China and the EU still have some differences, she's confident that a bigger picture is positive.
We always, and the press is right to do so, we always focus on what doesn't work, on what didn't happen. But I think what's very important is the message that came out of EU and China working together. And in every relationship, there are always details that have to be worked out. And I think, as somebody who watches this relationship for the last 20 to 25 years, I like to focus on the bigger picture. And for me, the bigger picture is really a positive one.
On the Belt and Road Initiative, she said the China-EU level connectivity platform and relevant projects are working quite well, and European businesses are really interested in taking part in the visionary initiative.
I think you would find that most Europeans, political leaders, are quite interested and actually fascinated by this initiative. I was at the Belt and Road Forum in Beijing 3 or 4 weeks ago, and all key European players were there. This is a broad vision. This is a very interesting vision. The challenge is to translate that into projects. And this is where the Europeans, coming from where they come and looking at things in detail, talk about procurement rules, transparency, environmental sustainability, sustainable development goals.
Now let's take a look at some economic news from China. China's foreign exchange stockpile expanded for the 4th month in a row in May after capital flood pressure eased and the value of the renminbi strengthened.
The State Administration of Foreign Exchange, or SAFE, said the forex reserves stood at $3.05 trillion at the end of May. SAFE attributed the continuous rise of forex reserves to stable cross-border cash flow and the appreciation of non-US dollar assets following a weaker US dollar. As China's economy stands on firmer footing and the government moves to stem illegal capital flight, the stockpile began to increase steadily in February. In addition, non-dollar reserve assets strengthened as the dollar index had declined around 4% by the end of May from its April reading. SAFE also released figures on the country's gold reserves, which amounted to $75 billion by the end of May, almost on par with a month earlier. It saw a stable outlook for foreign exchange reserves on the back of a stable economy, with rich potential and resilience, and the emergence of new growth drivers. China's Consumer Price Index, or the CPI, in May is expected to pick up from April, with the food price decline likely to narrow. According to the Bank of Communications, the official CPI in May is forecast to grow 1.5% year-on-year. Official data show that the CPI rose 1.2% year-on-year in April, as higher prices for non-food commodities outweighed an ongoing decline in food prices. The government aims to keep consumer inflation at around 3% this year. Authorities said China will expand tax breaks for small businesses in a move to reduce corporate burden and support economic growth. According to a notice from January 1, 2017 to December 31, 2019, small businesses with an annual taxable income of no more than $73,599 will be eligible for tax preferences. This is the 3rd time that the tax break coverage is expanded since the beginning of 2015. Private firms, mostly small and medium-sized businesses, generate about 60% of China's GDP and around 80% of the country's jobs. A State Council executive meeting decided to cut fees paid by enterprises. The country will reduce construction assurance deposit standards and cancel an industry restructuring charge that is ultimately levied in power bills. The country will also put on hold industry oversight charge levied on banks and other financial institutions and reduce the fees charged by Public Security Department for licenses. The new measures are part of the government's efforts to reduce corporate costs by 1 trillion yuan this year. The government will also step up supervision and inspection on the implementation of policies to help companies enjoy the benefits.
Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB, has enjoyed a smooth first year, with projects spanning a range of funding and loans. Since opening on January 16, 2016, AIIB has welcomed 57 signatory countries and approved loans of over $1.7 billion. Through its activity, it has supported infrastructure projects in various countries such as Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Myanmar, and Oman. Building on the momentum from its inaugural year, AIIB has launched its 2017 strategic priorities.
Last June, the bank approved its first loans to finance 4 projects in 4 different countries. They totaled $509 million. The 4 loans will finance 4 separate projects. 3 of these will be co-financed by multilateral development bank partners. The funded projects are focused on infrastructure in Asian countries. Funds will be used to support the expansion of a power distribution system in Bangladesh, a national slum improvement program in Indonesia, a motorway project in Pakistan, and border road construction in Tajikistan. Experts said these projects will give much-needed financial support to the region's critical infrastructure and strengthen regional connectivity.
The first projects approved by the AIIB orientate infrastructure and urban development. The projects cover 4 countries in Southeast Asia, South Asia, and Central Asia. These projects will help to promote the development of these regions, and it is the first time for AIIB to realize its goal.
3 of the 4 projects were co-financed by other multilateral development banks, such as the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development.
It's a beginning for China-sponsored AIIB, and there is a long way to go. I think China should do more to play its active role. Firstly, it's finance. China should do more to ensure variety and standardization of finance. Secondly, it's the rule. What will China do to make the rules, which include regional governance, distribution of voting rights, and which project will be approved? Thirdly, it's partnership. It includes the partnership among members of AIIB and partnership between AIIB and other multilateral agencies, such as between AIIB and the World Bank, AIIB and the Asian Development Bank.
The AIIB was officially opened in January last year, 6 months after its founding members signed an agreement in Beijing. The bank is designed to meet the current and emerging needs of its board shareholder and stakeholder base. Igor Kostikov, the head of the board of Institute of the Stock Market and Management, believed the AIIB is an important new concept that will complement economic integration in Asia.
Yeah, it's clearly because of the market, for my Asian market, it's the key market now for developing. You see that there's a China and India who is the biggest Asian economy, and plus everybody understands that the huge problem in this region is the infrastructure. Of course, China is doing their best and building roads and infrastructure projects, but it's not enough. Yeah. And there are other countries who want to be involved, plus the issue of the transport connections with Europe and with other regions. That as well, I think, would be covered by activity of the bank.
As a newcomer to the family of the world's multilateral financial institutions, the AIIB has been viewed with some suspicion by other countries. Some worry the bank might have been designed to undermine the existing international economic governance system. However, experts argue that the AIIB could use this opportunity to set up the right standards for multilateral development banks. Among them is Yukong Huang, a former World Bank country director for China. He is currently the senior associate with the Asian development of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace.
It's not the highest standards. The objective is the right standards. And the right standards also evolve over time. It doesn't begin with a predetermined set of rules and regulations. It can look around and see what everyone is using. It can ask them, are they comfortable? Do they like it? What do they think is right or wrong? It can bring in voices and opinions, and then it can come up and design something which it think really is the best at this time.
As the AIIB's main mission is to fund infrastructure projects, the bank can help meet the high capital requirements for infrastructure projects in the Asia-Pacific region. Many of these are worth trillions of dollars. The IMF's David Lupton said the bank can help fund the infrastructure projects that Asia needs.
I visited with the people who are preparing the AIIB, and I understand the approach they're taking. I think that China and the other members who have now decided to join the AIIB will be making an important contribution to the world, because the world needs more infrastructure and needs more infrastructure finance, and this bank can help provide that.
Joseph Foudy is a professor at the Stern School of Business of New York University. He said the competition between the AIIB and other existing multilateral institutions should be benign and positive.
That I'm not so sure on. I think all of these banks have to be very careful that they end up competing on quality and not on loans. And we don't want to have a race to the bottom where each bank is cutting their own standards in order to make a deal. We'd rather have a case where each bank is competing on how successful the ultimate projects can be.
The AIIB said that the gap for infrastructure financing in Asia has been huge and that the market is big enough for multiple players to coexist. Duncan Freeman is a researcher at the Brussels Institute of Contemporary China Studies. He noted that European countries can broaden cooperation beyond their own markets by joining the AIIB.
Obviously, there was a degree of competition between European member states to join, especially once the UK made its position public. Then very quickly a number of other European Union member states followed along. So definitely there was a degree of competition, and you can see from a point of view of the national interests of these countries that they see it as being to their advantage and in their interest to be a participant in the institution and also in the region and what is happening in the region.
The AIIB has released its strategic priorities for 2017. The bank will focus on three major areas this year: sustainable infrastructure, cross-country connectivity, and the mobilization of private capital. In order to promote sustainable infrastructure, the AIIB will promote green infrastructure and support countries to meet their environmental and development goals. It will prioritize cross-border infrastructure, including roads, rail, ports, and energy and telecommunications facilities across Asia and beyond to increase connectivity among countries. The bank will also devise innovative solutions that catalyze private capital together with other multilateral development banks, governments, and private financiers.
专业的团队，丰厚的经验。Welcome to Chicago. Welcome to the Lake Cook Law Group. 投资理财、法律咨询，芝加哥专业律师团队为您的梦想提供最安全的保障。
Hi, this is Little Chinese Channel, 小小中文, Lesson 20. In this lesson, we will be studying these 6 Chinese characters. What's this? Jing, jing, jing means towel. Mao jing, mao jing, mao jing, mao jing means towel. Jing is the building block of these 2 characters. If we put a horizontal stroke and a slanted stroke to the left on top of jing, this character is bu. Bu, bu means cloth. Mian bu, mian bu, mian bu, mian bu is a cotton cloth. Put an X on top of bu to make xi, xi, xi means hope. 希望, 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 希望 means hope. Next, we'll learn a new root character. What's this? 寸, 寸, 寸 means inch. 几寸means a few inches. If we switch this dot with a slanted stroke to the left, this character is 才 means talent or ability. 才能 means talent or ability. Take 才 and switch the stroke with the horizontal stroke with a turn at the beginning and put a horizontal stroke on top. This makes 牙 means tooth. 牙齿 means tooth. 牙医 means dentist. Let's write. Remember when you're writing to follow the stroke sequence. 经 不 西 壮 才 牙 Bye-bye, the lesson is done.